Evening, everyone. It's Tuesday, a little after 7. It's the 15th, and this is your closing comment. It is video number 811. And I remind you, it takes a lot of work to put this stuff out, so if you appreciate it, just hit that subscribe button, and I'll be happy for it. Okay, so we had a bunch of economic news this morning. We started with retail sales, which were down 1.3% versus an expected down 0.6, so twice as bad. Empire State Index, which is a manufacturing index, 17.4 versus 22 expected. So a big miss there. And on a month-over-month basis, even worse, 24.3 to 17.4. On top of that, we had the PPI, Producer Price Index, which was up almost double what was expected, up 0.8% versus up 0.5%. And on a year-over-year basis, PPI is up 5.3%. And it may, in fact, be transitory. I'm not necessarily a believer in that, but I would say that this number understates it, especially spoken by somebody who does food shopping. Later in the day, we had business inventories down 0.2% versus expectations of down 0.1%, so twice as bad there too. So tomorrow, since we have the second day of the FOMC meeting, we also have the rate decision, which I assume will be unchanged, and we have the press conference. So we'll see what people have to say and what kind of questions go that way vis-a-vis paring back buys. We have housing starts and permits. We also have export and import prices for May. And we have the weekly mortgage apps, which is neither here nor there. But that housing starts and permits ought to be pretty instructive. Stocks in the news today. We had Roblox, who has been using music that doesn't belong to them. And that's a problem. They're being sued for it. They also this afternoon put out some guidance late in the day with daily active user numbers, which were lower. Even though they're spending more time, there are less daily active users. And the stock, which was right around $90, last was 83.53, down 6.47, or just under 7% on that news. Oracle had earnings after the close, and they were a solid beat, top and bottom. The number for cloud computing was up. The stock had closed 81.64, down 98 cents, and it then traded down to 78.75. And the last I saw was 79.58, down 3.10 or 3.7%. Everybody was talking about how great the new management of Lordstown is, RIDE. This is a company that has not raised any money. Everybody was raving because it was up 8.2% to 10.02, up 76 cents. And it was 15.80 last week, and it was 31.5 in February. So 8.2% bounce off a 30% drop is really not much. Boeing got a little bit of a lift on the announcement that the EU and the US were suspending the tariffs on the basis of the fact that the question of whether or not they are subsidizing Airbus. That's a French and English company, and they have been, clearly subsidizing them. So Boeing was 246.54, was up $1.40 or 0.6%. Nothing overwhelming, but on a down $100 day, every little bit helps. The transports got a big boost today, and FDX, Federal Express, was a big piece of it. It closed 299.28, up 6.99 or 2.4%, and they have an agreement. They are now going to utilize Neuro, N-U-R-O. That is not a biotech. That is the company that makes those cute little autonomous vehicles that you've seen ads on TV for pizza delivery. Well, FedEx is going to use them for the last mile deliveries some places. And Neuro has already is operating in Texas, Arizona, and California. So that's a big boost for both companies. As I said, Neuro is a private company, and they had the CEO, Gary Ferguson, on this afternoon, who looks a little like an automaton to me. In any event, we also added 50% to our TJX position, down at 63 cents. The low for the day was 59. We added to it. We had started the position at 85, so our average is now 77. And I'm not sure, but I think that's pretty close to where they closed. They closed 76, up 6. And the stock, which was as low as 64 3/4, looks like it closed around 65.5 and up on the day after being down. We also added another position in SBLK, SBLK. We had a position in this 2 weeks ago, where we made well over 100% on the June 23 calls. The stock pulled back sharply yesterday, and this morning we bought the July 24 calls between 81 and 85 cents. We got a bunch of different executions. I'm using the high number 85 as our cost basis on the ledger, and they closed at 95, and they were bid there and offered as high as $1.05, I saw. Okay, so the Dow was down 94 after being down about double that, so just a scant 0.25%, and the internals were not bad. They were 1.1 to 1 down, so nothing overwhelming there. The NASDAQ was down 101, 0.7%. That was a little heavier on the downside, both in volume and internals, 1.7 to 1 down. S&P down 8.59, Russell down $6, and for the first time that I can remember in the last week and a half or so, transports were actually up 111.18 or 0.75%. So it has consistently been the worst performer, and that's better today. The chart that I have on the screen is the oil, and we're consistently making higher highs. Yesterday, we made a higher high and closed down on the day. And this morning, right from the get-go, we were higher. We traded as high as 72.49. Tonight, we are trading 72.44. That's up 32 cents because we didn't close right on the high. And we have traded as high as 72.5. So that's not much of a higher high, but we'll take it. The gold was down, even though that PPI number was pretty horrendous. It had kind of a narrow range, 1870 to 1853. Closed towards the bottom, 1856.40, down 9.5. I want to show you the chart on Bitcoin because it continues to edge higher. It's not setting the world on fire, but it is edging higher. I told you yesterday that it looked like it was moving up. Today was a fairly narrow range, not terribly narrow. I mean, it was still $1,800, and it closed up on the day. Tonight, it's up 120. I'm still keying off this close, which was 40,320. So we've been through it, but we haven't closed above it. So we'll see what happens there. The dollar was up a penny. Bonds were basically unchanged, down 2 ticks. And the other thing that we were in last week that we took a nice profit on was the nat gas, and it came to a screeching halt this morning, and was, kind of range bound for a while up here in the 330 to 337 area, and then all of a sudden it just collapsed to the downside, trading as low as 321.30. 321.30 off a 336 high. That's a $15 range, which is pretty much what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to see it trade 336. I was expecting it to come down shortly after we were out of it. But tonight, again, it's down another 280, 321.10, so a slightly lower low. If this gets down into this 315, 316 area, I will probably get long again. All right, everyone. Have a good evening. I'll have all of that information for you tomorrow with those numbers, with the exception, of course, of the FOMC decision, which doesn't come until 2 o'clock. And the press conference not until 2:30. But housing starts and permits, export and import prices, and weekly mortgage apps will all be available in the morning. Have a good one, and don't forget to subscribe.